I am super excited because if you look behind me, my flat pack boat has arrived. Some assembly required. So I'm really excited because today I'm actually starting work on the boat. This is also really important because I have about 8 weeks to get the thing ready to go in the water. So let's get moving. The standard way of building a fiberglass boat is to first construct a mold and then lay the fiberglass over the mold. That allows you to create arbitrarily complex shapes, and it allows you to build the same hull design over and over and get very consistent results. But I'm only going to build this hull once, so then I'm just going to have this mold kicking around that I don't need. So I'm going to use a different method. I'm going to start by constructing the internal framing, and then I'm going to form the outer foam around that internal framing. So the downside of doing it this way is that I'm a lot more constrained in the shapes that I can do because the foam is basically going to deform how it wants to deform. The upside though is it should go a lot faster because I don't have to construct the mold, and it should be cheaper because I don't have to construct the mold. So I'm in Fusion 360 now, and we're looking at a little rough model of the boat here that I've made. There's a lot of stuff missing from this, but it's good enough to get started. So the part that I need to start with is constructing the bulkhead that's going amidship here, and as well as the one that's going to go in the nose section there. So I've transferred these here to a sketch. So you can see there's the amidship one, and here is the nose section one, the bow one. And this frame around here is 4 by 8 feet. So that represents the 4 by 8 sheet of foam that I'm going to cut this out of. So the next question will be, how am I actually going to cut this out of the foam? There are a lot of ways that it could be done, and I'm going to try doing it by actually taking this image and projecting it onto the foam so that I can trace it with a Sharpie, and then I'll cut it out by hand. That's going to give me some sketchy results, but one of the things that I like about this project, or at least that I hope I'm going to like about this project, is that it is going to allow for a fair amount of imprecision in the construction of it. So my hope is I can get close enough with this that in the end it won't really matter. If I could do it any way in the world possible, I'd love to have a CNC hot foam cutter, and then I could cut this extremely precisely. But gotta make do with what I have. Now that we have a model made in Fusion 360, it's time to make a 1/12 scale model in real life so we can get some idea of how the panels are going to bend using a smaller version before we try to do it with the full-size sheets. All right, I've programmed the model into the replicator, so let's have a go at it. Nice. All right, so this is looking pretty good. So now we just got to build it in the real world. So I've aligned the projector so that the outline of the 4x8 board lines up with the edges of the actual 4x8 board. And I've also, in this corner, verified using the tape measure that my 6-inch long marks are actually 6 inches long. So now all I need to do is trace the outline using this Sharpie. And hopefully in the process, I don't knock this over and knock it all out of alignment. So I've traced the outlines here. This worked about as well as I expected, which was not so great. You can see I got off the line here on the blue one and had to go back. The tilting, you don't have to tilt it all that far to make a difference. I'm going to do a little measurements and see how close it is to what it should be. When I actually come and do the cuts, they're going to be somewhat imprecise as well. So the big hope in this whole construction project is that everything just has to be close enough and it'll work out. There's a lot of bending and flexing, and the whole process is built up from take what you got and add some more around what you already have. And rather than cut everything all at once and then hope it lines up at the end, it's all cut it to about the right size, line it up, and then trim it down so it looks like it fit from the start. So we'll see if that actually happens in the end, but that's the hope. Obviously, it would be really nice if I could throw this on something like a ShopBot or a giant laser cutter and cut it very precisely, but I do not have access to that yet. So for now, we're going to do what we can. If I cared more about precision, I think what I would probably end up doing is a more wasteful method where I would have printed out all of these pieces on paper at a 1-to-1 scale, cut all the paper, trimmed it all together, got a nice full-size scale model of it that I would have then taped on here, and then traced that, and that would have given me a cleaner edge. My past experience with cutting foam, though, says that even if I had it super precise, when I'm cutting by hand, there's going to be a margin of error as well. So I don't know if that would have actually been faster and more accurate in the end or not. So I think this is going to work out. We're just going to go with it, and we'll see if that was a poor decision in a couple weeks from now. I have a variety of serrated edge cutting devices here. I'm going to start with the really fine one. I think serrated and the fine is going to be my best bet. I've used say a straight edge like an X-Acto blade before, but it's pretty tough to get it through this. So I think the serrated is going to work out better. A hot wire foam cutter would work really well, but they're also a little bit dangerous just because they cut so fast. If you're a little bit off, you can really gouge your piece really quick. So in some ways, the slowness of this device is going to make my life easier. Now, what I'd really like is a hot wire CNC cutter, but I don't have time to build one of those before this project has to be done. So we're going to do it with manpower. You can see here the edge is not too bad. There's a little bit of tearing, a little bit of balling, but this is all going to be covered and probably sanded anyway, so I'm going to keep going with this tool. Although, let's try another one just for the sake of trying one. I like this one because it's nice and rigid, so it makes the cut stay perpendicular to the surface. With a thinner blade like this, I think I'm not going to use it. My past experience is the blade's going to tend to wander and flex around a lot, giving a very rough edge. This one's got a stiffer blade, but it's also not as fine, and I think it's going to tear out chunks that are too big. So I'm just going to stick with this. It's working, so why mess with success? Well, that's it for today. Next time we'll start cutting the panels that go on the bottom of the hull. But until then, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe.